Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that, like George and Weezy,
Well, we're moving on now.
earlier this year, we were named a semifinalist for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
White diamonds, 2 a.m. she wildin'. She sick, got they stomach in her comments. What school you went to? Gardena, Compton, Westchester, King, Drew, did we function? Lil, what that dog give me, that's on pup. All my kids, I sock you up. Have you ever took a fade and ran 3 more back to back? Oh, you haven't? Then shut the f up and keep it rap. I'm from the land. Don't say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. Am I tripping? Yes, I am. Meditate over some money. I see Franklin, I find Zen. I'm from the land. Don't say you hate LA, but live in LA and pretend. My neck on Tarantino, Alejandro Spike Lee. Just know you took the scenic route if you stand by me, stupid.
So fly in this 50 on me, don't die trying it. You know I'm up and down when I slide in this Beamers and the jets outside.
KBLA Talk 1580. Yeah. I know he was born in El Paso, Texas, but he's ours now. He grew up in Watson, East LA. And he was, this is what his bio says, a gang member and drug user at the age of 12. By the time he turned 18, he had lost 25 of his friends. Went on to be an incredible leader in the community, an artist. He wrote 2 autobiographical accounts of his experiences and many, many books of poetry, winner of the National Book Critics Circle Award for the autobiography. And he's a journalist, a critic, a founder of Tia Chucha Press and Tia Chucha's Cultural Center, which publishes emerging socially conscious poets, and a lot more besides that. Luis Rodriguez, welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
I had to play that Dodger Blue for you, Luis. I just,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, don't say you hate LA, but you don't travel past the 10. No. It sounds like something you would say.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right.
So how are you, my friends?
Well, I've been busier than ever. You know, I turned 71 this year. Me and my wife, she'll be 72.
Happy birthday.
I tell people, yeah, and I tell people that, well, we're not really retiring, we're refiring. There's so much to do, you know, with what's happening with Trump, with the government, what's going on in LA City. So we're in it, and we're going to do it with as much maturity and as much strength as we can.
Well, I mean, happy birthday to your wife as well. I'm glad you guys are refiring and not retiring. We definitely need you, your work and your approach right now. And, you know, I something tells me the whole, I don't even know what to call it, the debacle that's going on in Washington right now and this sort of spread of totalitarianism and fascism worldwide, it's not just here, is not making you fearful nor slowing you down.
No, I think, well, you know, you and me have been at this for a long time.
Yep.
And I knew your father, and he was in the struggle.
And he loved you.
I think, he was a great person to me. But to me, it's like, you know what? We've been here before. It gets worse, maybe, but it also gets better. I think people, especially young people, are really taking up the mantle. At least I'm seeing this in my community here. They are marching out of the high schools. They're stepping out. They're speaking out. They're getting organized. I was talking to one of these teachers who said that the other teachers were saying these students don't know what they're doing. They're just misinformed, and the kids came out with a big sign: young, informed, and active, something like that. In other words, they had very highly organized walkouts, and so I think this is what I'm seeing. Where it's going to go, it's hard to say, but I do think that people cannot just sit still, as you know, and they got to be strategic. I call it strategic creativity. Be creative now.
Strategic creativity. I love that.
Yes.
So it's not just creativity just for no reason. It's creativity because, well, I mean, the power of art, right? The power. You're a huge practitioner, but also teacher of this. You know, using art to heal, to educate, and to resist. Talk about that.
Well, you know, I've been doing that all my life. You know, when I was a teenager, for a short period of time, in Black and brown communities, there was funding for the arts. It didn't last long because Nixon comes in and cuts everything, right? But I got to paint murals. I was a gang member, drug addict. At 17 years old, I painted 10 murals with 13 gang members.
Wow.
I was also given a camera, and I took pictures that were actually exhibited at my culture center, Dia Chuchas. This past 3 months, we had an exhibit of my pictures from 55 years ago. And in other words, it opened up my life. I think the arts does more than just keep people busy. It makes it more human. You know what I'm saying? People say, let's do the arts.
Yeah. No, it makes people more human. That's
open.
deep. Yes.
Yeah. It's transformative, basically. And I think that I went through that myself. And so years later, I'm constantly fighting for the arts among gang kids in prisons. I've been going to prison for 43 years. I bring in the arts, and I also do it with my community center, Dia Chuchas, over here in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. Arts is resistance, and arts is transformative, and arts is essential.
Yeah. So much in that I would love to follow up on. But the first thing I'm thinking is I was reading today in the paper about this crackdown inside of California prisons because they're saying there's a surge of violence. I think it was 2 weeks ago when we saw the reporting about these gladiator fight clubs that are being run inside the prison system. Now, if you, as a person who has worked inside the system to try to help young people, you know, reimagine their futures, their communities, themselves, and to be able to survive the conditions of our carceral system. How do you read these stories?
Well, yeah, I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe in punishment as a way to get people out of their trouble they're in, especially crime, which I think is very racially and politically biased. You know what I'm saying? So those gladiator schools in the prisons and the juvenile facilities have been going on for decades. It's been going on for a long time. This is something that when I was in juvenile hall and I was in and out of jail as a teenager, that was going on then. And it's by the system, the staff and people like that. Now, we've been struggling here in L.A. County, especially with the juvenile facilities, with the probation department, you know, because they keep going back and forth. And we have a program at the Nydorf Juvenile Hall, which is no longer a juvenile hall, but we were going in there, and one of our kids that we were teaching was a young man that died there.
Oh, wow.
Of fentanyl. I mean, in other words, what's going on where the caretakers and the carekeepers are making things worse? So I do think it all has to be reevaluated, reimagined, as young people say, and kind of put on another footing. You have opportunity to change people's lives, and they won't do it. And instead, people, as you know, going to the prison systems, unfortunately, too many get worse. I think many of them do well. And people, when they say that, I try to be careful. I work with so many men and women who come through the prison system who actually do quite well. You know, you have to put that out there because the impression is they're all doing bad. They come out, they don't know what they're doing. there's a high recidivism rate. Yes, there's a lot of people who do fall into these traps, but for the most part, they do well. But the reason that they do fall when they do is because they don't give them the tools, the resources, the connections they need to be able to, stand up, step up, and do what they need to do in the community. That's what's missing. Preparing these young men and women to come back in community, help community, not take away from community.
Yeah. Well, you're still doing the work, and it's about art, but it's also connecting with ancestors, right? You're helping to connect young people with their ancestors in a sort of higher mind level.
Yes, I think it's all these dimensions, because people always want to put them in boxes. You know what I mean? But as you know, working in the community, you've been in and out. It's multidimensional, the things we have to do. There's a spiritual end to this, as well as the very important political end that has to be organized. And the spiritual end, to me, is where you tap into what we call ancestor energy, which is all indigenous people. Africa has it, Asia, all over the Americas, other places, is the energy we have to tap into as we go forward. It's like knowing how to tie in the past and tie in the threads of the future by being in the present. And this is what our teachers have told us. This is what people do. We tap into that energy because it's inside of us. We all have genetic memory, and almost all the ancestors are there with us wherever we go. And you learn eventually to know how to tap into it, to keep yourself moving and walking in this world in a solid, strong, and a very confident way. Because I think people think spirituality means to remove yourself from the world. It actually means to become stronger, more resilient, and more capable in the world. And that's what I try to teach as young people and anybody else that we can.
Luis J. Rodriguez, former poet laureate of Los Angeles, is my guest. You're welcome into the conversation, 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
A new day is on the horizon.
Who paved the way for the leaders of today? An untold number of remarkable women, known and unknown, who shaped our past and continue to inspire our future in every field of human endeavor: education, civil rights, technology, and more. Celebrating Women's History Month, we are KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I am excited to be talking with Luis J. Rodriguez. No chance you're running for governor again, huh?
Oh, it's very difficult. I'll tell you the biggest problem is that it really is about money.
Yeah.
It's the money that wins elections, and even Democrats, everybody has to address money. I'm not a big money guy. I'd rather be out there in the streets. Last time I ran, I got 125,000 votes.
Wow.
With no money.
With no, that's amazing.
Up and down the state.
Yeah.
I know, and I know that we could do it if we had more people organized to do it. I think what I'd rather do is have young people step up if I can help them, talking to them, training them, whatever. That's what I'd rather do. I think this is time for them. But, yeah, it's very difficult without money. But I think organizing grassroots is still a viable way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to work a little better at the local level, but even for a city council seat in a big city like LA, New York, Atlanta, you're talking about a considerable amount of money.
Right. It's constantly people raising money all the time just to run for office. It's an industry like everything else. It doesn't mean people shouldn't do it. It just means that they got to be in that mindset. They got to raise money all the time.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't think I will ever run for public office, even though folks have encouraged me to do so. I don't like asking people for money. I just don't like it.
I know.
Yeah.
No. And there is obviously a grassroots thing. If you were to ever run, I would be right there with you. There is grassroots, but even grassroots requires currency, not necessarily money, but energy. And so we just got to make sure that can be organized.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot. So, other than, we were talking about, leaning into art, what you call strategic creating or strategic art, leaning into our understanding of our ancestors and our indigenous or whatever our spiritual practice is. And politically, how do you meet this moment? Let me put it to you this way, Luis. I was talking with a person that I know. I'm not going to call him a young person because he's about my age.
You're young.
Yeah, I'm young. I'm young at heart. He is a Mexican American. I found out for the first time that he considers himself Chicano because I had never heard him refer to himself as that. But he has gone MAGA. I've known this guy for a long time. And he says to me, well, we Chicanos, we're not like other Latinos, so we're sitting back and saying, yeah, great, Trump is taking care of this. He's getting rid of the criminals and the bad people, the riffraff, basically, in the Latino community. So he's interpreting Chicano as to mean I'm a American Mexican of Mexican descent or indigenous descent. So I'm not concerned with the plight of undocumented persons. And that really worried me, I got to say. Yes,
of course. And, he's in a bubble. Most Chicanos, and I'm in that community, do not think that way. They are borderless in their imagination. And they are very much with the black community, which is something that a lot of people don't understand, but they are. I know in my community, there is no Republican base. I'm living in the second largest Mexican and Central American community in the U.S. There's no Republican base. Everybody here is progressive in one form or the other. There might be Republicans, but generally they're not. And they're out there active. And the media doesn't cover it. I think the media, what it did was stoke the fragmentation among us. I noticed that they would go to a lot of MAGA Latinos and just interview the heck out of them. Remember that whole period?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I said, wait a minute. Why don't you interview people like us who aren't MAGA and have been part of the struggle for a long time? They won't do it. So they were stroking the fragmentation. So I'm in a community in which most people here, most of these young people are not going that way. Chicanos are more indigenous-minded, and they're very resistant-minded. Just like, the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, the AIM people, I came out of those movements in the 60s. That's where the Chicano movement surged. Chicanos have been around for a long time, but they surged that way. And I have to put it out to people that we're different. They're like, we always point out, Latinos are not a monolith, as you know. There's Black Latinos, there's white Latinos, there's indigenous Latinos, there's all kinds of people in between. There's Republican MAGA Latinos, and then there's very progressive, revolutionary-minded. We are on a spectrum, but I do know that especially in LA and especially in California, we're much more progressive and much more, anti-MAGA than anything. You got to go to places like in Texas where you won't find that. There's other places where Mexicans, especially those tied to the Christian nationalist churches, a lot of them got pulled into those churches. And they're pushing people forward. People don't realize that. For example, and I have to admit, my brothers and sisters who are older and their grandparents all got into the evangelical churches, not the really good, decent ones. I'm talking about the really right-wing ones. They all ended up going to Idaho. They all live in Idaho, my nephews and nieces, because they were told L.A. is the devil's playground. Get away from L.A. And they're working-class people that have got no college education. They couldn't go to hell jobs there. The rents were getting crazy. So they went to Idaho, and now they're in a bubble, too. You know what I'm saying? And I love them. They're my family. And these are Chihuahuenses, Raramuri native peoples who are pro-Trump. It's sad to see that happen, but I get it. I get where it comes from. And I think, though, people have to understand most of us are not like that. That happens to be the aberration, but that's the ones that they kept putting forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I saw all those news stories and profiles. The movement to the right of the, Latino community.
Yeah, they keep pushing
it was
it.
endless and endless.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a great point about the influence of the church. That seems to be pushing a lot of, rural white folks, poor white folks in the country.
Right.
Getting
exactly right.
moved. The black church, not so much, although there are pockets.
Right.
But that's mostly pockets with paychecks.
No, you're right.
Yeah, those are paid off pastors.
The church is fragmented too. There's very progressive Christians, amazingly powerful, beautiful people that are Christians, but there's also that right wing, and it's kind of coming into our communities as well. And I know, especially in the Chicano, the Mexican, Central American community, there's a lot of them. These churches popping up here and there.
Yeah, and then of course there's social media and the disinformation that's going out there. But I'm not going to lie. I know that there's a lot of black folks that are angry with Latinos in a general sense right now because of the election results.
I don't blame them.
You don't?
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, black people were the most coherent, cohesive vote against Trump, and they're right. You know what I mean? And now, as you know, a lot of people are having this regrets. At least that's what I'm seeing. Who knows? I still think that racism and misogynism and xenophobia really pushed all those people. I don't think they're as dumb as people make them out to be. I think they're people I think these people are racist, misogynist. You know what I'm trying to say. They're not totally I didn't know what I was doing. But there are people who didn't know, and they're regretting it, and you're seeing it. They're regretting it. Those are the ones that got pulled along. I do think it was a very vote against black people, a vote against women, and a vote against migrants. And that's what we're seeing. This thing about criminals among immigrants, as you know, is a lie. Vast majority of these migrants are not criminals. They're hardworking people. But that's the lie that kept building and building. And I know that they thought, well, we're going to get rid of all the criminals, but they're going after mothers. They're going after people who are just working in the streets. They're going after regular people in the sense that they're not criminals. We knew that was going to happen. That lie.
Well, it's the only way they can fulfill the lie. Like, I really think Trump and all those folks, they knew that there weren't criminals running everywhere because those folks have already been deported. They're already been detained. Right. And so now, in order to make the lie seem true, they've got to find these millions of people that don't exist and deport them. And so they have to get people who are not criminals and detain and deport them, and then label them criminals. Well, you cross the border, like the press secretary Leavitt says. Oh, well, if you cross the border, then that means you're a criminal. So now we've made you all into criminals, even if you came legally through the refugee system.
Right.
And so
asylum programs.
I feel like they have to get these people. Otherwise, it's too clear that they were lying because there will be no one to deport.
Well, yeah, and plus, coming over without your papers is not a criminal thing. It's a statute thing. It's a civil. That's why they go to civil courts and they don't have to have lawyers. People don't know that, but I've been doing a lot of immigrant rights work, and they don't get lawyers there because they're not criminally charged. They're charged on a civil basis, and that's what this is. Now, they might make it a criminal thing in the sense of it's a crime to cross the border, but right now it's not. It's not a crime. It's just something you do that you shouldn't do, and you get a civil court. People don't know that. A lot of these migrants don't have lawyers.
Yeah, well.
They just send them away, send them back, or whatever, or put them in detention for years and years. Some of them, 5 years I've known migrants stuck there, and have never committed a crime, but they're still in jails.
Well, we only have 1 minute before we go to news, traffic, and sports, and we're going to continue on the other side. But if my friend Paul was listening, who is a proudly MAGA Chicano, what would you say to him?
Well, I think get out of that bubble, like my family. That's all they listen to. Get out in the world. I listen to MAGA people as well as others, but I do know where I'm coming from. And I'm not really here to attack all MAGA people. Right. I do think there's a good number of them that know what they're doing. But the point is, get out of that bubble. Okay, the world is bigger. There's a bigger world out there. Find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same, we've talked about, I have a member of my family who voted for Trump, and, he's, you're a better man than I. I'm not talking to him right now, but maybe I'll follow your example. News, traffic, and sports, then more with Luis J. Rodriguez on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries expects Democrats to oppose the Republican spending bill, which he says fails to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The bill is set to be presented today, and without it, the federal government faces a shutdown on Friday. Ukraine appears to have carried out the largest drone attack to date against Russia. Russian officials say over 90 drones were used to target Moscow in a massive attack that led to the suspension of train service as well as flights at 4 airports. Makeup company L'Oreal is recalling the acne cream Effaclar Duo because it might contain a carcinogen. A testing lab determined that acne products like this one could contain benzene. The company is working with the FDA to remove the remaining products on the shelves. And the Trump administration is negotiating a TikTok sale with 4 groups before a ban takes effect in less than a month. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
4 days ago, the Lakers were the talk of the NBA with an 8-game winning streak and projections as a legitimate contender for the Western Conference title. The Lakers have lost 2 in a row after losing at Brooklyn Monday night, 111-108. Injuries are becoming a major issue. The Lakers did not have 4 players who have started games this season, including LeBron, who is out for 2 weeks with a groin injury. Injuries to Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura, and Dorian Finney-Smith are showing how vulnerable the Lakers can be if they're not healthy. The Clippers are in New Orleans tonight to start a 3-game trip. The Clippers are going for their 4th straight win. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts has a new contract. The Dodgers gave the 52-year-old Roberts a 4-year extension worth $32.4 million. Roberts and the Angels' Ron Washington are the only 2 black managers in Major League Baseball. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Eaton Canyon fire devastated many black families in Altadena, taking more than just homes. It took memories, legacies, and generational wealth. The heart of a black community is now in jeopardy, but Justice Coalition, led by Gage and King LA Lawyers for the People, are here to help. If you've lost your home, we are standing by to hold insurance companies and utilities accountable for the damage caused. When the community suffers, we all suffer. Together, we can rebuild what was lost. Your recovery starts today. Call 626-429-1259. That's 626-429-1259. Or visit www.eatonfirelawyers.net. Justice Coalition, Gage and King, LA Lawyers for the People. We got you. Call 626-429-1259. Visit www.eatonfirelawyers.net. Again, 626-429-1259. This is attorney advertising. Past results do not guarantee future outcomes. Legal representation is provided by licensed attorneys.
We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Canyon fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On the Conversation Live Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record, unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Many of the 39 BLM grassroots chapters across the nation are participating in this honoring of the memory of Breonna Taylor on the anniversary of her death. This BLMLA event is taking place on Sunday, March 16th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Norman Houston Park, 4800 South La Brea in Los Angeles, the park at the summit. For special parking options and more information, visit blmla.org or go to BLM Los Angeles on Instagram. Say her name, Breonna Taylor, and join us in loving on Black women. Happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back indeed. It's always fun to talk with Luis J. Rodriguez, a poet, activist, author, and I think you ran twice. Did you run twice for governor? 2-time gubernatorial candidate?
I did run twice.
Yeah. And also a poet laureate.
I got better the second time.
You got better the second time? You got more votes the second time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of work. What do you feel about lifting up third, fourth, fifth parties during this time in our history? I feel like it may be an opportune time because we've gotten to the point where many people feel like the Democratic Party is not effectively pushing back, or that they've gone too that they've stayed too conservative and not leaned into the progressive wing of the party, even though, I somewhat blame Jill Stein for where we are right now. She got 18% in Michigan.
Right.
At the same time, is this a moment where we should be really looking at building viable other parties?
Well, here's what I would say, because I am a Green Party person, and I think there's something to be said about not being part of those two parties that we know are being run by corporations of one form or the other. But I do think it's a problem. When Kamala Harris was running, it seemed to me that there was a clear point, strategic point, to vote for her to make sure Trump wouldn't get in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was a strategic decision. It didn't mean that she was the best person or the best, but she was definitely the most qualified. She definitely should have been, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And yet I heard from a lot of people on the sides, third party and otherwise, no, don't vote for her. She's no good. And I go, wait a minute. You can't just make everybody the same. They're not the same. Trumpers, MAGAs is not the same as a conservative Democrat. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
We have to know how to think strategic. That's why I'm saying being strategically creative now, because I think it was something that some people fell into. I'm not voting. The biggest problem in the last vote was the people that didn't vote.
Yeah, that's true.
So many didn't vote, and they should have voted, but they didn't because they felt, well, I'm not going to vote for either one. No, vote. You know the issue. You know what's going on. I voted for Kamala. I didn't vote for Jill Stein. People say, wow, how dare you do that? It's because I'm not going to throw away my vote. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's strategic thinking. I don't mind telling people this because I do think that there's a place and time for everything. If we can have another party that can really be about the commonality of our issues, the impoverishment, the inflation, those issues that everybody says this country is really supposedly about, our jobs, that will be the party I would be part of. But it takes time to organize. And I think that's what's missing. Maybe that's where we're going, organizing something different. The Democrats are a tent party. In other words, they're a big tent party. They have all kinds of people. And this is why I think they're more fragmented than the Republicans, because as you can tell, the Republicans aren't a tent party. They're clearly fascist, majority. I know there's some that aren't and whatever, but the majority are clearly going that way.
I mean, the policies, right? You can talk about individual Republicans, and then you can talk about what the party as a whole, what I call the new Confederate MAGA Republican Party, what they are actually doing is fascism.
Right, exactly. And they pretty much, as a whole, are going that way. Democrats are fragmented because we're a big tent party, which means you have so many people all over the place. Can we have a movement, maybe not so much a party, of the poor, the dispossessed, the people at the bottom? That's what I would struggle for. And Mexico kind of did it with the Morena party. Mexico's in a different place than it was ever. And Mexico is one of the hardest, most corrupt places you ever wanted to be. They started a movement, and that movement's called Morena, which means brown-skinned. And they're trying to base their policies on the indigenous and the poor. They may not be all that successful. I know there's a lot of criticism of them, but on the other hand, they have a movement, not just a party. So I think that's where we're at. What kind of movement can we have of the people at the bottom? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Who can push everything. Yeah.
Yeah. If they bring back slavery, you think that Scheinbaum will let us flee again over there to Mexico?
Yeah, I know. But everything is to me, the movement is a direction to go, because it seems to me movements become organized. Movements are more like people fighting for their interests. Land, bread, freedom, liberty, all these movements that have popped up all over the world. And then you got to organize them. And I think that's where we're at. What kind of a movement that can pull together all the people? And I'm saying at the bottom, and I even include MAGA people in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, the ones who can wake up. The ones who can say, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean, wake up. You're in a bubble. This is not the world. This is not reality. Your common interest as a poor person is the same as mine is the same as a black person. That's the thing that's not happening, and that's where I would move in that direction. When I was in the prisons, I used always have black and brown people in my classes. Every once in a while, white prisoner will show up. And I remember one time this one guy was talking about Trump in his writing. He's a great writer, though, white guy. I love Trump. Okay. But then he started talking about his life. He grew up with a family addicted to drugs. He was put in the foster care system. He was juvenile system. All of a sudden, everybody looked at him and they go, dude, just take away that Trump stuff. And when you're talking about this reality you lived, that's our reality. You're just like us. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
There's a commonality even that guy could get to.
I mean, but based on what I read and hear about the prison system, I mean, the fact that you even had all those folks in one class seems impossible, if not at least remarkable.
Well, yeah, because they divided the prison system by race, as you know. California was one of the worst states. I've been in 20 states in prisons. California was the worst one when it came to division by race, and it was by design. They did it to pit one, especially because George Jackson and the Chicanos were all meeting. They were actually meeting to discuss peace. They killed the main leader among the Chicanos in Chino, and then, of course, they killed George Jackson in San Quentin. People don't know these things. They wanted to keep dividing because the biggest section was black and brown prisoners. And then, of course, the white prisoners, who are generally poor whites, you know what I'm saying? Mm. They tell them, you're not like them. You don't have to tell all these white people, you're not like them. They're poor whites. They're not rich whites. And they told them their interests were different. Well, I think we got to break through that nonsense. I think that's where we're at. There's a commonality we have, and that's where I think we got to have a movement that pulls that together. That's where I'm all for. I'm part of the Poor People's Campaign with Reverend William Barber and all them. You know, it's trying to develop that kind of a thing where a movement of people at the bottom can start changing the politics.
But in that immediate environment of the California prisons, I was just reading this book by Dr. Brittany Friedman. I think it's called Carceral Apartheid. And it really breaks down how and why those separations happened, which technically seems like some kind of DEI or some kind of, it should be illegal under Trump. But anyway, how were you able to make people break that code and come into your classes? Or did you even make them? Did you just attract them? Like, how did that happen?
I would tell you, interestingly, I tell you, it started with the black prisoners. The Chicanos were not programming. This is years ago when I first got in. They weren't programming. It was blacks that came to my classes. And then they would go to the yard and tell people, this is a great class. This guy, Luis Rodriguez, has got something. Pretty soon, Chicanos started showing up. And they were out of my class and they realized that, hey, this wasn't too bad. So then it became black and brown, which is really hard at the time. Yeah, and then, of course, a few white guys came in. I'm a really good friends with Kenneth Hartman, who spent 38 years in prison. He's a white prisoner, but he turned out to be one of the best students and one of the most progressive prisoners, white guy. So I have met all kinds of people. But it took that kind of effort. It was the black prisoners that started people going, you got to go in Luis Rodriguez's class. She kind of started showing up, and they said, yes, this is cool. So it was mostly black and brown, and I just was at Chino recently, the same thing. Black and brown guys in there. And this is hard. You know how hard that is.
Yeah,
but
that's why I was
think it's
asking.
superficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is superficial to a point. And at a certain point, the people realize we're in the same boat here. And that's what's breaking down some of those old hard line divisions.
Mm. Luis J. Rodriguez is my guest. We got so much more to talk about. And you're welcome in if you want. 800-920-1580. They're talking about you in the chat. And we will keep the conversation going when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Fatherhood includes being present during pregnancy and beyond, supporting your partner, advocating for your baby, and ensuring a healthy birth. Black fathers play a key role in reducing maternal and infant health disparities, and your involvement starts during pregnancy. Join the free AIM Fatherhood program today and learn how to support your partner, advocate for your baby's health, and connect with other fathers committed to healthier births. Visit blackinfantsandfamilies.org/fatherhood to get started.
A new day is on the horizon.
Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March on KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing those hidden narratives to light. Hear extraordinary stories of women who transformed science, politics, arts, and community. Women you've never heard of, but should know. Celebrating Women's History Month on KBLA Talk 1580, where every story matters.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
As we go a little something like this.
Hey, it is me, D.L. Hughley, and I am thrilled to be heard weekdays in my hometown on KBLA Talk 1580. So check out the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a whole lot to talk about, let me tell you. That's what the real.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
On First Things First, Mad Dog Media TV in the chat says fascism literally just means sticking together. No, actually it doesn't. Merriam-Webster's dictionary, fascism, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime such as that of the fascisti, that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation by forcible suppression of opposition. Sounds like what I was reading in the newspaper on yesterday. And the day before that, and the day before that.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's what Hitler had and what Mussolini created. The thread is still being pulled in this country. And it's also what people don't realize. I think it's also the state combined with powerful rich people. That's something that gets missed.
Yeah.
Fascism is when that section of rich, powerful people unite with the state against the rest of us.
Right. I mean, that was one of the definitions I put forth on the show, because that's what I learned in school, was also the sort of merger of the state with the corporation.
Right. That's really what I think a lot of it is, and people don't see it. It's a section of the rich people, not all of them, but enough of them, and especially now with Elon Musk and Bezos and all of them, the richest,
right?
Billionaires are now joined in with this government. So that says how powerful it is. I will add one thing else. Hitler, bad as he was, never got the power that Trump has.
Wow.
Trump has fascism with the biggest, strongest, most militarized country in the world. That, to me, is what makes him even more dangerous. People don't know that. We have to do whatever we can to rein him in, whatever that's going to take. Because where he's going, it's going to be really bad, the direction he's going. So I think that's why it's important that we step up and not let this go any further.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, one billionaire that I always include in that pack is Dr. Patrick Chung, who owns the LA Times, who's a South African-born billionaire. Mm-hmm. And they will not let up on beating up on Karen Bass, our mayor, every single day now. Right. Elon Musk has put out the marching orders. She dared to travel to Africa. They want to make her the whipping girl, the scapegoat for the fires and for, you know, Khloe Kardashian and the other angry mob from Palisades to pile on her, not the governor, you know, not Catherine Barger, who's over Pasadena and Altadena, not Tracy Park, who's over that area on the city council, the black woman mayor. What do you make of that?
Right. Well, I think that's part of that whole DEI nonsense. They're going to look, especially, okay, like if I said the most coherent vote was black people, especially black women. They were foretelling us what we're doing. They're going to go after them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're pissed off that there was that coherent, cohesive black vote, and they're going to do everything they can to undermine that, push people back. And that's why they're going after people like Karen Bass and others who, in their mind, are that black woman spirit and energy. This is why we have to stand by her in that sense. I don't have to agree with everything. I know Karen back for years. I know her. It's not about that. Again, being strategic. We can't let them do that to her, just like they can't let them do it to anybody. They attack every woman, especially black woman, they can, because that's the one section that stood up coherently against Trump.
Yeah. Luis, let's talk about your work for a little bit. Where, folks, I know you invite people to Tia Chucha's. You can come out to the Cultural Center. You can go to readings. You can go to the bookstore and buy things. And tell us how to do that, and tell us where to find your work, and, you know, how to support the work that you do. I think that's very important, too.
Yeah. Yeah, so Tia Chucha's Centro Cultural and Bookstore is one of a kind in Sylmar, in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. Everybody's invited. We have like 200 events a year. We have the only bookstore for 500,000 people. We have the only art gallery and the only movie house for 500,000 people. As you know, in our black and brown communities, you would go for miles and not be able to see a movie house and see a theater or an art gallery. We do it, and we invite everybody. And I would just say, just look us up, TIACHUCHA.org. Look at all our programming. It's community-based all the way. And to spread that knowledge of ancestral knowledge that we're tapping into, but also that the arts is transformative, makes us more human, and it's one of the powerful ways that we can fight the fascist drive in this country.
I remember a long time ago when you were on my show, you quoted an indigenous saying about all people being connected, and I can't remember what it is. I always try to finish my shows with a quote, and I was thinking of asking you for one, and then I just remembered something that you said that you kind of use as a life philosophy that comes from an indigenous culture about the connectivity of all people. Can you remember what I'm talking about? Does that make sense?
No, I don't, but I got one maybe that might help.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is that to be a full, complete human being is to be a full and complete artist. And that's another indigenous way of thinking. And that's why we need to push it. That's why the arts is one of the big things they're going to cut, as you know. They do it in the schools. They're going to cut it federally. They're going to cut the arts. I know in other places when fascism rises up, they go after the poets. They go after the artists. They go after those beacons of lights that we have. So I think this is why we have to be more creative and be more human, but then also utilize that strategically in our struggle to make this the world that we need, that we all deserve. a better world, a fuller world, a world that's whole and healthy for everyone.
I mean, that's what we saw when already, right, with Trump taking over the Kennedy Center and people stepping down in droves, artists, which I think is a great thing that, that resistance, whether it would be Shonda Rhimes or Rhiannon Giddens, was like, okay, no, we're out. We're not going to do that. People canceling performances. And you've been through, Nixon years and other repressive years against artists. I said, when they were tearing down the Black Lives Matter plaza yesterday in Washington, I said calling all graffiti artists, because I feel like even though you could be shadow banned on Twitter, censored on Meta, and destroyed in your own plaza, they can't fully suppress the arts, can they? No, you're right. And this is why hip-hop rose up. This is why every movement starts with artists. You know what I'm saying? They start with the poets and the writers and the thinkers. I mean, I think about the South Bronx. I was there in 1981 when it was popping. People had no clue until you're there. I'm in the South Bronx, and I'm seeing hip-hop everywhere. And it was black and brown. It was the combination of our communities. It was beautiful. It was alive, graffiti everywhere, breakdancing, rapping. Everything was going. And the message was always resistance. They're going after them again. And if we have to go underground, we have to go that way again. We have to keep with our voices no matter how they try to cut it off. If they cut off the federal funding, if they cut off the arts, we still got to have the theatrutes out there doing it no matter how it's going to happen. We can't let the arts or poetry or any of our voices die. Yes, indeed. And one way we can not let it die is support places like yours, tiachucha.org, tiachucha.org. Go on there, buy some books, go visit, and support the work that Luis J. Rodriguez is doing. Luis, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Always. Thank you so much, Dominique.
Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a show for you. I see John Wood Jr., so I know that's at least one of his guests. He always has an incredible lineup. I mean, it's just amazing every single day. Leaving you with what Luis said. His indigenous quote was, "To be a full human being is to be a full and complete artist." Maybe that was Luis quoting himself, but I love that. And I think it's so important and relevant to our times. You can talk to me at social media. We are at KBLA 1580 on every platform. I'm at DiPrima Radio, DiPrima, and then radio. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries expects Democrats to oppose the Republican spending bill, which he says fails to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The bill is set to be presented today, and without it, the federal government faces a shutdown on Friday. Ukraine appears to have carried out the largest drone attack to date against Russia. Russian officials say over 90 drones were used to target Moscow in a massive attack that led to the suspension of train service as well as flights at 4 airports. Makeup company L'Oreal is recalling the acne cream Effaclar Duo because it might contain a carcinogen. A testing lab determined that acne products like this one could contain
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone.